Marcus Buff Bagwell here on YouTube channel, and man, I got the honor of talking to Matt Riddle.
Bro.
My first question is, how old are you?
I am 39. I just had a birthday the other day,
39.
Yes,
39.
sir.
When's your birthday?
January 14th.
I'm January 10th.
Bro.
Capricorn, bro.
Capricorn.
Capricorn.
Every boy or man in my family is a Capricorn. My dad, my brother, my sons, yeah.
My oldest brother was the 11th. I was the 10th. He was the 11th, so we always had our birthdays on the same day. Capricorn. Yeah. Capricorn strong, brother.
Capricorn
the goat.
Strong. Yes.
The goat.
Yes. I don't really look at signs,
Yeah, I don't either, but
but when they say stuff, it kind of makes sense.
It does. Every once in a while,
you talk to one of those ladies,
hey, why did you know that?
Yeah.
So, Matt Riddle.
Yes.
What gets you into this business wrestling? What got you into pro wrestling?
Well, I'll say this. When I was a kid, I grew up in a house where we didn't watch sports. My family we weren't into pro sports. My dad was a chemical engineer. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. And we were more focused on academics and things like that. Okay. Which, if you've met me a couple times,
yes.
I don't seem like that kind of guy.
You don't? Right? No, not a book. I don't see a book guy, no.
So we didn't watch sports. I played some soccer and stuff growing up. But when I was probably 6 years old, my dad put on some pro wrestling, and I was hooked. And ever since then, I was wrestling. Everybody wrestling. My friends in the backyard, doing it, recording WCW, WWF, ECW, because I had.
So you were all in.
I had family in Pennsylvania, so I'd go down and visit them, and it would be on basic cable down there.
Yes.
So I was in a really good spot to watch a lot of really good professional wrestling growing up, and I was in like a hotbed. And then as I got older, I realized around 13, nobody's just going to let me hit him with chairs and do this, right? Yeah. I'm a kid.
Right.
So what can I do? I joined the amateur wrestling team in 7th grade, and that's kind of what, got me into, college and everything, and then eventually got me into the UFC, and eventually full circle came back to what I love, professional wrestling.
But you had love from a young age of pro wrestling. It just the road didn't take you that way. It took you to college, but mat wrestling.
Yes.
Were you a good mat wrestler?
Very.
State champion kind of stuff.
State and national champion
wrestler.
Weight? I even John Jones took third the year I won states in 2004. John Jones, your stallion. Definitely the GOAT, But that year in 2004, I was the GOAT.
I love it.
But I pride myself on my grappling ability.
Well, brother, it showed, obviously. Yeah. So that stirs up UFC.
Yeah.
So how does that begin? How do you start becoming a UFC fighter?
The Ultimate Fighter series just started. I was a freshman in college, and Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffin had that epic bash where they had like a slugfest, and it really put the UFC on the map. And once that happened, the UFC became the fastest growing sport in the world.
Ever.
And it was blowing up. And when I looked at it, because I wanted to, this all was to go to pro wrestling or some kind of pro sport. And when I was looking at my odds, I was looking at the landscape of WWE at the time, and I was like, I don't see myself making the lineup right now. You know, especially as a 22-year-old.
How did you look at 22 though? Were you muscular? Were you jacked?
I'm built the same way.
You were a good-looking kid.
I've been built like this since I was 16, except for
so you were a genetic freak.
Yeah,
for your weight.
I don't know. I mean,
well, no, but still, for a 22-year-old kid, clean. You looked at straight up. And so that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. A lot of people don't talk about this, but see, I remember when WCW went away, the WWF lost their initial. So you got WWE, you got WCW's gone, and this thing called UFC happens.
Yeah.
Same time, brother. And that helped.
Dude.
That helped. That helped.
I'm telling you, things like that are just perfect storms.
Yes.
And just like that fight happening then, and then the initial, and WCW's gone.
Yeah.
And now all
something to watch. Wrestling's gone. That's there.
And dude, I'll tell you this, because I went from watching pro wrestling all the time to watching mixed martial arts all the time, because it was on Spike TV, The Ultimate Fighter. But when I looked at the landscape of wrestling at that time, I felt like I couldn't get in. It would be way too hard for me to get in. Wow. MMA, there's weight classes. They're doing a reality show.
Right.
And I'm pretty.
It's building. You're doing good.
I'm pretty handy.
You're tough. You're doing well.
Funny enough, I competed jiu-jitsu wise a lot, and I won a bunch of national titles and stuff like that. But I only had one amateur fight. and I went and tried out for the Ultimate Fighter, but I told them I was 1-0 pro. But I wasn't. But this was back in the day, and they couldn't check.
They couldn't check.
So I was like, there wasn't Sure Dog back in the day. So they just had to take my word for it, and my skills backed up a professional.
You were tough. You could do it. So you fit in.
And I got on the show. But then they found out after I broke that guy's jaw the first fight, they were like, "You're not a professional fighter." And I was like,
Who says I'm not?
Yeah. And then they're like, "Hey, we got to go get you more testing and licensing." Like they had to do like an EKG and a heart thing
to make it.
Well, to make it official.
To make it official. That's the word, official.
You know, even though the fights on the Ultimate Fighter are technically unsanctioned fights, they don't have to. They didn't pay me for them or anything.
It's kind of like WCW. We were independent contractors, but we got drug tested. I'm like, look, you can't drug test your plumber.
Yeah.
You know, I was like, wait a second.
Don't get me started. Yeah. Don't get me started.
We don't like testing.
Yeah, I like this relationship. I don't like testing.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're at UFC. It's going well. Mm-hmm. What is the moment where you're okay? Now I'm going to try to pro wrestle.
Well, when I was with the UFC, I was on a hot streak. I was on like a 4-fight win streak, and I was ranked top 10 in the world at welterweight. You know, which is a pretty stacked division.
It's a tough one.
And I was working my way up. I was 27 at the time, so I'm about to dive into the deep end. I've been in the UFC at this point for about 6-7 years.
Yeah.
And it's my time to go for that run.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I had a medical license for cannabis, and I used medical cannabis, and I'd used it 2 weeks prior. But being dehydrated from the fight and getting tested, it was very much so in my system. And back then they tested for like, I think 15 nanograms, which is nothing. Which is nothing. So I failed that, and they exercised their right to terminate me. But I'll say this: I'm the only fighter in UFC history that's failed drug test for cannabis that has never been fined.
Really?
Yeah. Well, try. You already gave me the money, so try to find it.
Try to get it back.
Try to get it back.
Good luck.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Right.
And then,
So what does your track look like to become a WWE wrestler?
Well, right there, check this out. Like perfect storm, right? So I got fired. I'm fighting on the regional circuit. Nothing's really working out. Promoters say they can pay me, but then when it comes to fight time, they can't pay me. And professional fighting, it's like, I'm not going to just spill blood for half of what you promised me. So I go back and forth.
You're doing the indie UFC stuff.
Yes, I'm doing indie.
Which is nasty.
Oh, it's
dirty, nasty, right?
Brutal.
Right.
It's brutal.
Welcome.
My first fight outside the UFC, I was like, oh man, I didn't realize how good I had it. You know, right?
I wonder if I can apologize. Right?
Yeah, dude, I didn't mean to.
Sorry about that.
But so I was fighting, but a lot of fights were falling through injuries, stuff like that. And the network started $9.99. And you know, as a fighter, you're not making that much money, and I couldn't buy pay-per-views or anything. But now it's $9.99. I can afford that.
Sure.
So I started watching pro wrestling a lot again, and I fell in love with it even more so, especially watching like the legends of wrestling and like the boys in the back, and you're like, oh,
behind the curtain stuff.
Yes. And then I was just like, you know what? I feel like I can do this. You know, watching Daniel Bryan, others with kind of mixed martial arts.
The body started changing a little. More fit guys instead of all jacked up dudes.
Instead of all jacked and kind of bulky guys.
Some athletics.
Athletic. You got to be able to move and
kick,
weave.
Barefooted thing.
And because of the UFC, people are smartened up. They know certain things don't work.
Right.
So it's like, I'm like, well, I know all the moves, and I can hit them. I can hit them when people don't want me to hit them. Right. So imagine working with somebody at.
So you're kind of a shooter.
Yeah.
So that's right, because
I'm
you can stretch somebody if you need to.
I'm a shooter as it gets. And I don't abuse the power, but I do use it to protect myself when I have to.
That carries a lot of weight in this business, as you know. To be a shooter, because nobody's going to mess with you. Nobody's going to try to get over on you in the ring because you're actually a tough guy.
Yeah.
And I love that.
I will say this is one of the benefits of having the fighting experience. Granted, I had to do it, right? I had to fight in a steel cage all around the world and get to where I am. But at the same time, the juice was worth the squeeze, and being able to come into pro wrestling and know I'm always comfortable. It doesn't matter where you put me. No. Because I've been in some real sticky situations.
I'd say so.
No way it's going to get stickier than
Can't be stickier than what I've already gone through, right?
Exactly.
So what year do you sign with the WWE?
WWE, I started wrestling on the indies. I had to try out super early on, and they were super high on me.
Right.
You know?
Right, yeah.
And Because I failed a drug test, and even back when I did this tryout, cannabis was still kind of taboo, even in America. It was still legal places and medically growing, but still a little taboo.
Right.
And they said, we're going to pass on you. So I just wrestled the indies, and I just said, I'll just become undeniable till you don't have a choice.
Right.
And then eventually I just kept wrestling. New Japan offered me something, but same thing. Hey, your UFC thing. And I was like, well, a lot of people would give up right now, but I'm just going to keep going and grinding.
So they brought up UFC too.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Really?
Well, in Japan, it's really taboo, and and then eventually, I just got to the point of being so over on the independent, and I'm selling merch everywhere. The thing is, Regal sees this, other people that are scouting see this, and they're like, bro.
This kid's got it.
And then eventually, New Japan picked up the phone and like, we don't care.
Right.
And then once they didn't care, WWE didn't care. And then I basically had them in kind of a bidding war. Of course, WWE always wins that battle.
Every
and they
time.
did. Thank you. I got paid handsomely.
Yes.
And so that's how I got there.
Wow. So how long, you're formally right now, are you with TNA? Are you with
right now,
AEW? Who are you with?
I'm a free agent, but I would say my home company is MLW.
So MLW.
I love it. I'm the MLW heavyweight world champion right now. I almost won it 6 years ago before I even went to WWE, and then I came back on the indies. I've been working, and I finally got the one championship that eluded me.
This MLW's got some traction, brother.
MLWC.
Bishoff's coming in.
Dude, Bischoff's been there. He's coming back in Atlanta. I actually hung out with Bischoff the other night. I was at Nick Hogan's wedding, and Bischoff, Rob was there, Bam Margera was there. It was a very fun cast of characters.
That's great, dude.
Yeah.
And Eric's a great guy.
Eric's a great guy. Great, just fun to have a promo with in the ring.
Can you imagine your boss having your Harleys taking on the road for us and delivered on a semi, and our Harleys taking off the truck and us riding Harleys from Minneapolis, Minnesota to Sturgis, 700 miles, with a mechanic and a trailer. If you got tired, you could pull over and put your bike up. You don't meet bosses like that, brother.
No, you don't.
Eric Bischoff's one of the greatest bosses ever.
Dude, I can't argue.
Great guy.
Can't argue, and I couldn't agree more.
So you love wrestling. You had a great UFC thing.
Yep.
So MLW is what you say was kind of your home.
Yes.
A lot of indie stuff going on.
Yes.
How can people follow Matt Riddle?
Right now, if you want to follow me, Instagram, Riddle Bro. I believe we follow each other.
Yes, we do.
And on Twitter, I'm at Super King of Bros.
I like it.
And then I have TikTok, but WWE has the password, and I haven't got it back from them. So
you're not going to.
Probably not. But I have a good amount of followers on there. I should probably get it. And plus, the kids use it.
They do.
Yeah. I was still worried about that whole China thing. I don't know. But whatever. What's the point? Who cares?
There's no way we can make a change.
I don't change. I'm
not
just a professional wrestler.
So 20. How old? So you're 39 now.
39 now.
You're in still fantastic shape.
I keep it tight.
You really do. It's incredible how good you still look. You're 30.
You as well.
Thank you.
We can compliment each other all day.
All day, buff the stuff, brother.
Dude,
Matt Riddle.
Dude, and it's enough.
Yes.
It's more than enough.
What does 2025 hold for you? When you get up in the morning, what does Matt Riddle focus on for the 2025 year coming at you? What is in it for you?
I think 2025, I had a son last year at the end of 2024, so he's one.
What's his name?
Little Matthew. Right,
Matthew Jr.
I didn't want to put the pressure of a JR on him.
Okay.
So I named him after my brother, middle name. So it's Matthew Ronald Riddle.
I like it.
See, I'm Matthew Frederick Riddle.
Frederick, okay.
And then my other son's Zachary Frederick Riddle.
Okay.
So I
mix it around a little bit.
I don't want to JR.
You don't want to JR him?
Dude.
Why?
I feel like even though I don't wear shoes, I got some pretty big shoes. I
like that.
Some big flops.
That's a good one. That's a big shoe.
Just like I would never make my kid play a sport or do anything.
Right.
They
do what he wants.
Do something, and I just feel like being a junior, especially being in the career path I had with fighting and everything, people are just going to assume
he's going to wrestle.
And I'd rather him, if he falls in love with it,
let him do his thing.
And I'll be there to help, and if not, I'll be there to help them with anything else.
Well, brother, I think the MLW thing has got some traction.
I agree.
And I really think you got a good thing going there. Are you their heavyweight champ?
I'm the heavyweight current champ. The title's right over there. I've been taking pictures with it all day, people.
I love that.
And a lot of people, funny enough, watch MLW. It's
I know,
pretty
brother.
big.
I know,
It's
brother.
pretty-
Bishoff don't do anything unless something's
Yeah,
doing well.
dude.
So when I heard Bishoff was involved, and then your name came with it, I was like, man, this thing's really doing really
Dude,
good.
and
Where are
Bischoff-
they based out of?
Oh, well, the thing with MLW, they're not based out of anywhere.
Okay.
So I think next month we're in Atlanta, and then just before that, this January, we were in Texas, in Dallas.
So like
New
like
York,
Atlanta
Chicago.
was, you know,
But
Turner was Atlanta.
But we go
WCW.
to hot spots. So like
Smart.
kind of like I used to work for a company called Evolve back in the day, and they worked a lot with WWE. And Evolve wasn't based out anywhere, but we'd do New York City in certain buildings. We would do Chicago, Detroit, Michigan. Michigan's a great place for wrestling. If you've ever been there,
Yes,
dude,
it's huge.
It's money.
It's huge. That's where the Steiner boys are from.
Yes,
big wrestling.
so it's just, and then Texas as well. So like,
Yes.
I feel like for independent wrestling, where wrestling's really big, there's certain areas where if you bring a premium product, say like an Evolve or MLW or even a TNA, it's more likely to sell out because the fans are passionate.
I love it.
Yeah.
Brother, thank you for your time.
Bro,
it was a
thank
pleasure.
you. Pleasure's
Matt
all
Riddle,
mine.
brother.